Hey everybody, it's Friday, October 23rd or 24th, I forget. Anyways, this is going to be a WelIs Index video. I'm going to continue the repair on the WelIs Index, and you're probably wondering, oh well, is that because you got the... Well, some of you who have been following more closely probably recall that the problem that I have, of course, is that the spindle is snapped. There's half the spindle there, and there's the other half, and it's completely snapped off. So the plan was, well, first called Weld Index, $950 for a brand new spindle. Not going to happen. Then fished around on the internet and found somebody who has just a head for a WelIs Index that probably has the same spindle as mine and was willing to ship me the whole head. The problem is, I'm East Coast, he's West Coast. Shipping, even when we started looking around, was going to be high enough that his fair asking price for the whole head, I don't even remember what that was anymore, plus shipping made it pretty much a non-starter for me. Even if, like, I had him ship me the whole head and then I sold off some of the extra parts I didn't need down the road. I mean, that's possible, but it just, you know, at that point I decided, why don't I attempt to repair this this shaft. So the plan was, I've got my crusty old Airco over there, and I've got TIG set up for it, so I was going to set that up for TIG, teach myself to TIG weld the shaft, but I wanted to put the shaft together with a, you know, like a long piece of all thread through it and tighten it all up, and then check it between centers to make sure that it didn't have any nasty bends in it, to see how true it was before I went through that. And then, of course, the other thing was, if that checked out okay, then, unfortunately, because of where the snap occurred, this is all review for a lot of you guys that have been watching right along, but basically it snapped right there where this spanner nut, or lock nut more correctly, threads on to the shaft. So the problem is, got to remove that nut and then grind out a groove there to TIG weld it back together, and then gotta cut new threads on it. So the plan was, the reason why I stopped on this was, the plan was to get the Vernon lathe up and running, and the Vernon lathe has come a long way, and actually turned a little bit on it last time I was playing with it, but I haven't leveled it yet and done anything like check the tailstock to make sure it's not set over from the last time somebody used it. So to make sure it would turn true along any length, I've got to level the lathe, verify the tailstock alignment to the headstock, and, you know, do some test cuts. And when I'm satisfied of all that, then and only then would I attempt to do something as precision as that. Repair on that shaft. Now, several of you are probably cringing and going, hey, you know, I think maybe there were even some comments about how, yeah, that's way above your pay scale there, Steve. It's not a thing that an amateur or a beginner TIG welder should be doing, and it's not something that a beginner or amateur home hobby machinist should be doing either. But my theory was, worst case scenario, if I completely botch the job, or it doesn't work, then I'm back to square one anyways, which is finding a used spindle, and then I'd probably go with the last deal that was offered to me from the West Coast guy, which was he would just take out the quill assembly complete with the shaft in it and ship that to me, and I want to say, I think he wanted $350 plus whatever the shipping was going to be, which the quill assembly with the shaft in it is pretty heavy. So from West Coast to East Coast, it's like probably around, I don't know, 50 to 75 bucks. So then I'd be into it for $425. So that was definitely something that was going to be my fallback, and he's still got the head. He hasn't done anything with the head, because I just maybe a couple months ago got another email and he asked me whatever happened with this, and I said I just haven't had time to try and fix this one, but he was letting me know that he still had the other one there in case I decide to go that route. So that was the plan. And then about a week and a half ago, a Wells Index, the same model as mine, in what they were describing as good running condition, popped up down in Rhode Island with a asking price of $1,000, which if anybody was in the market for a vertical mill with R8, I actually didn't check, but I'm assuming it was probably R8. There were 2 tapers available on the Wells Index. But just goes to show you, you know, $1,000. I see Bridgeports every once in a while pop up on Craigslist in this area for $1,000 to $1,200, $1,500. They get snapped up pretty quickly. This thing actually sat for a little while before it finally somebody took the posting down. And I have to be honest with you, I actually contemplated going down and looking at it. And the only thing that stopped me was the fact that it was at the very southern tip of Rhode Island, near the ocean. So that was over an hour drive for me. And, you know, the other thing, of course, was just spending that kind of money. But my thought was, right now, I got basically the world's biggest boat anchor over here. Well, actually, world's biggest paperweight. Boat anchors are bigger than this, some of them. All right, so let me show you what happened. Oh, working on editing Vernon part 46. So, gotta get that. This clip cannot be optimized. Error. What the heck is going on? I'm having a real hard time with one of the clips for this video. So I was poking around Craigslist and searching with the keyword Wells Index just for the heck of it, because I hadn't done it in a while, and lo and behold, what popped up? Here's another Wells Index. And this one's in Plainfield, Connecticut. And Plainfield's only about 40 minutes from me. So this was more doable. So I'm looking at the pictures here and I'm going, oh yeah, that looks like another 847. Looks just like my machine. You've even got a DRO over here. But the DRO, it's a Dynamics Research Corporation, which is an early 1980s very dumb DRO. It can't even do a dot pitch circle or anything like that. It really, it's just a straight dumb DRO. But if it works, you know, it's got glass scales, and if it works, then you know, better than no DRO, right? But, you know, looking at it down here, Wells Index milling machine, some parts in need or repair. So I was like, oh, okay. So there's something going on with it. I ended up contacting the person and went down yesterday and looked at it, and the table's got some pretty good ouches in it from mistakes over the years. There's absolutely no evidence of scraping marks or flaking left on the ways. It's got a lot of wear. But the thing is, it's 3-phase, 480 volt, currently wired. He temporarily wired it for me and we ran it. And boy, I got a real good experience there in learning how how this is probably supposed to sound. Now, at some point, they either lost or had a problem with the drawbar, so he said they got another drawbar from somewhere, and this drawbar is way too tall. You see it? So it was funny, when we got it running, it was running smooth as glass. I put an indicator here on the table and actually indicated a pin, a hardened dowel pin in the collet, and I think I was only getting 1 or 2 thousandths out, and that was actually, I think the dowel pin I had might have not been great, or I might have had a problem with the collet. The pin to lock the collet in place was sheared or missing on this one. But anyways, when I got it up to top speed, I had a little bit of trouble shifting it into high range, which, you know, I think that might be just because it sat so long in low range. The guy said we never used it. We always used it in low range. So I got it into high range, and when I got it up to maximum speed, this drawbar must be out of balance or something, because it started to vibrate violently, going back and forth, kind of like the... I guess I'm simulating what it was doing. But this down here is still rock solid, so it looked good and it sounded good. So the thing is, the whole head I think is a good head. It's missing, I don't know. See, at first I thought it was missing the fine feed hand wheel, the manual feed hand wheel over here on the front of the head for the quill. But he said it was like that when he got it. And then I saw on eBay, on eBay last night, I saw another one of these for sale. and it had the same exact deal here. It just had this button thing here and it didn't have a hand wheel. So I don't know if this is just an earlier version or what the deal is there. So because of the extreme wear and the beating on the table and everything, I said, you know, I really just want this for a parts machine. I said, oh, and the DRO, the wires are ripped out of the back accidentally. And he said, you know, DRO was working, but then they ripped the wires out. So, yeah, make a long story short, oh, it's got the feed on the side just like mine. I said, you know, would I be insulting you if I offered you $300? And he said, no. And he thought about it. He says, but I'd like the sound of 4 better. And I said, let's split the difference. $350, bought the whole mill. So this morning, I'm going down there and he's got a big forklift. We're going to put this on the Dodge 1-ton and bring this puppy home. And the plan is going to strip off some of the parts that I might be able to resell on eBay that are, you know, shippable. We're going to take the whole head off and set that aside, and then we're going to scrap the knee, we're going to scrap the body, we're going to scrap the turret, we're going to scrap the ram. That's all going to go to the scrap yard. Scrap prices are way low, and you know it's not going to bring much, but every little bit that I get back will help, you know, chip away at that 350, so that in the end result, I should end up with you know, a complete scream of a deal on this thing as far as my replacement spindle goes. And then I don't have to, none of you guys have to cringe anymore about the thought of me trying to fix that thing, that other spindle. Although, I'll be honest with you, I might still do it just to see if I could have done it. Ah yes, the mighty 97 Dodge with the 5.9 liter Cummins has not failed me yet. Well, at least the motor hasn't. Doors are rotting out, needs paint, paint failed. But it's gonna get the job done today. Just had the inspection done on this thing, and it needs a front wheel bearing on one side and a lower ball joint on the other side. So gotta get that done, hopefully before the snow flies. And well, so let's put an 1,800-pound mill in the back of it. Working off that 395 on a long, hard working day. I know, quit your day jobs, Steve. Ah, fall colors in New England. Well, we're actually a little, I think we're past peak foliage here. I'm actually just crossing into Connecticut right here, so this is going to be the northeastern part of Connecticut. Alright, so if you can hear me over the roar of the Cummins, let me tell you a little bit more about yesterday's trip down to look at the milling machine. After we sealed that deal, he says to me, he says, would you be interested in an old lathe? I just kind of chuckled and rolled my eyes. I said, oh, I got 3 now. I said, but, yeah, I'll take a look. So he opened up this Connex box that they have outside that they store surplus equipment and stuff in, and he showed me this lathe that he had picked up a while back, and I don't think he even ever really got around to using it much because it was missing a tailstock when he bought it. But it was a Wilson lathe, W-I-L-S-O-N lathe, and I looked at it and I never heard of that one. Turns out it was made in England, so probably over in the UK it would be more common. But it had some design features that made it desirable to the U.S. market. So there were some that ended up getting exported to the U.S. And particularly this particular type is called what's called a slant bed. So it's a really unique setup. It also makes the tailstock very unique. So adapting another tailstock to work on this lathe is would be a monumental task, unfortunately. Even like the steady rest had to be pretty funky to work on this thing. But the slant bed allowed this thing to have a really a large swing for a lathe that, you know, fit in a small space. But, you know, this lathe would only be good now for turning, you know, kind of facing operations and things like that. Can't turn between centers with this thing without a tailstock. So I'll see if I can get a little bit of video of that, just because it's such an interesting lathe. The owner of the company is actually not there today. I'm meeting one of his employees that's going to help me load the mill. And then also, while I was there looking at the lathe, you know, he explained he's probably going to end up having to just scrap it because he doesn't think he's going to be able to sell it. I noticed the compound was missing, and he says, "Oh, geez," he said, "the compound was here," and he didn't even realize the compound had gone missing. So, you know, we theorized that it's possible that had already accidentally gone to the scrap yard, unfortunately. So it's missing a compound and a tail stock, and it's not a common lathe, so good luck finding that stuff. You could probably adapt it to the compound to work on it. But I looked in the cabinet down below and I saw some goodies down there, and I put them all, you know, he said, "Would you be willing to sell those? Since you're probably going to scrap the machine?" He said, "Yeah." I threw it all in a box, and we agreed on 40 bucks for it. So I'll show you those goodies at some point. We'll probably do that in a separate flea market finds deal. Alright, so been on the road for about 32 minutes now, and we're almost to Plainfield. Well, there it is. So this is that old DRO, and when they were moving it at some point, they accidentally ripped this cable right out of the back of a plug that's in here. Got a nice little collet rack there with 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 collets. That's a freebie. Table's got some major boo-boos in it. Here's that weird thing I was talking about that I've got the manual feed knob on mine, so I don't know if this is an older version or what. Got that Dewar motor on it. I'll take a better look at it when we get it home. No?
Nope. Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit the wrong. Alright, there it is, all loaded up and ready to go. Well, it's not the ideal situation for scrapping. I've got my big heavy strap in the front here to keep it from tipping back. But I stuck my sling around here, and all I've got is these cheapy straps back here, which even if they hold, it could rip out these things. But if this thing wants to go over, it's going to go over. I mean, there's no doubt about it, the thing's going to fall over if I end up having to slam into somebody. But I mean, at least it'll only fall into the extended cab section and not kill me, theoretically. But seriously, guys, I'm actually going to take the back road all the way back, so I'm going to pretty much stick it to around 35 miles an hour as a maximum. It's going to take me a while to get home, but it's going to be slow and safer. Whew, what a difference a day makes here in New England. Well, yesterday I got back here safely with the mill on the truck, and no incidents to report, which is good. So today I got to get the mill off the truck, and the only thing I have that can lift this thing off is, from previous experience, is the Oliver 770. Problem is, it's pretty cold today, and that old diesel doesn't like to start, so hopefully we're going to get that thing going, because otherwise I'll get a big problem.
It's not that loud. The noise will, this tractor will block it. Not the noise for me.
Well, the alignment looks pretty good. Question is, will it lift it? All right, here comes the dicey part of the operation. Basically, I gotta lift the thing up so that the weight is off of the truck, and then I'm gonna drive the truck out from underneath it. And the time between when the weight is actually on all of the chain and the loader and the strap, and the time that I get the truck cleared completely out of the way, that's the most dangerous time, because that's, if something were to fail, I think it comes slamming down and it could be a big problem. So I gotta do this kind of quickly. Hopefully when I lift it, this thing won't be too out of kilter. It's leaning forward too much. If I lift it straight up right now, and if the chain or the strap were to fail, or both, then when it falls, it's going to fall forward, wreck the truck. I don't know whether or not, if I try and drive forward, if there's enough weight off the truck for it to slide off. I don't know. I don't think there is. The problem with having my chain so short, I didn't have enough slack in the chain to undo it. I finally got in a position where the thing's sitting on the ground and I got just enough slack to get that chain undone. Alright, so this is going to be a parts machine for me, and that's why I haven't been treating it very well. Neither actually have the people I bought this from. This was owned by, prior to me, I just bought this from a welding shop. And the owner of the shop admitted to me that really the only thing they were using this for was, I think he said, coping pipe. So that particular welding shop, they specialize in a lot of custom railings, commercial, and I imagine all types of different railings. So they do a lot of on-site work, welding steel. I mean, they do other stuff too, I'm sure, but the main job that they needed this thing for was, I think, cutting little radius cuts on pipes where two pipes would be joined together. So not to get all bogged down in that, but that's basically all this was relegated to doing the entire time that I guess they had it, and they don't know much about the history previous to that. I know based on the manufacture date of the DRO that I took off of here, it's DRO I think is in 1983. Judging from the looks of the machine, I would say this is probably also an early 80s machine, and the DRO was probably put on shortly after it was purchased. The style of DRO uses glass scales, which are housed in these housings right here, and if you break one of those, that's a major problem, and pretty much makes them, well, you'd have to get a replacement scale, which would probably be pretty difficult for this machine. So I'm going to probably try and put that DRO, and if I can get that DRO to work, I'll probably try and put it on my machine. The beauty of having it on this machine already is because my machine's identical, so I can pretty much use like this little adapter block right here and any other little adapter plates or blocks that be used for the purpose of mounting the DRO scales to the table. I pretty much can use those to mount it on my machine. Actually, it looks like on the table here, it looks like they actually are just using the slot for the automatic stops. So I guess pretty much you can forget about using your automatic stop if you put it on that way. I don't see really how else you would do it. I guess you could put it on the back. Yeah, I mean I could mount the scale on the back side, and then I would have my slot back to put my automatic stops for the feed. The problem with that is that if you move the table, you're going to lose a little bit of the range of being able to move the table back all the way up to the knee here by the thickness of the scale housing right here, which is almost looks like close to 2 full inches. So I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. So this was listed as needing parts or repair, and so I asked him about what was wrong with it, and he said actually the problem they had with it was the brake gear, the brake shot. Needs to be rebanded is what he said. Now the brake on mine works perfectly fine, so I'll probably be able to use those brake parts on mine to I haven't quite figured out exactly what I'm going to do here yet. I really want to take, ideally I want to take the whole spindle and the quill assembly out of this machine and put it in my machine. The drawback to that would be that when they make these quills for these heads, they precision lap them so they're a perfect fit. But I've read online that a lot of people say that, you know what, don't get all hung up about that, because you know you're not looking at tens of thousands of accuracy in a machine this old anyways. So the drawbar is not the original drawbar, and it's extra long, way too long, and he doesn't quite remember where he got it from, but it's kind of an unusual deal. It's so long that what happens is when you put it on high speed, this actually flaps back and forth. So I don't know if this drawbar is going to bend in it or if it's just too long for the job. But I could, if I wanted to use this drawbar, I could cut this down. That's been bashed on quite a bit. It's got the spacer in there, so I'm surprised that it does what it was doing. But it has to be, I guess, just because of this fact that it's so long.